Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Jim Kleiber Show. Today is this Monday, Monday, December 21st, 2020. Christmas here in the United States is happening in just a couple days, and the year is ending soon. As the year comes to a close, as we come to this season of gifts, so Christmas, Hanukkah, and I believe some other, maybe even not too familiar with Kwanzaa, but I believe Kwanzaa as well has gift giving. As the year comes to a close, the Congress in the United States is trying to pass a bill to bring more stimulus to the country. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to talk about this idea of, frankly, I wanted to talk mostly about the stimulus checks themselves. And the idea of giving unconditional cash transfers. So maybe I've talked about this on the show before, but I'm not sure. So in the spring, I think it was March or April, the U.S. government came together and decided to give stimulus checks of $1,200 to many of the adults in the U.S. I think there may have been a cap that if you made over a certain amount of money, then you didn't get the check, but I can't remember. Oh, look at another Seth Rogen comment. Seems to be the comment du jour of Twitter. But so stimulus checks, $1,200 to every single American adult of within a certain income range, I believe, and that was back in March or April. And there has been no further stimulus bills. Now, that stimulus bill also provided extra $600 per week of federal unemployment help for people who had lost their jobs. And I believe unemployment was expanded a little bit to people who lost their jobs because of freelancing and other things like this. And then there was lots of money giving to, I think, the Payment Protection Plan or Program, PPP. Which was supposed to help small businesses, but also seemed to help large businesses. And regardless, there was a lot of money that was put into programs. Unemployment program, PPP, and many other programs required a lot of coordination and assistance. And I think with the idea that if it goes through the program, then we can make sure that people aren't taking advantage of it and that the money could be delivered more fairly. But they also gave out those $1,200 stimulus checks, which are, you could see the programs as conditional cash transfers, that like the condition for getting unemployment was that you had previously had employment and lost it because of the pandemic. I'm sure there are plenty of conditions with the PPP based on what kind of company you had, the size of the company, how you use the money. They give you the money, but you have to use it in specific ways, et cetera, et cetera. And these are terms that are often used in development economics, like working in, a lot of times, the West going into Africa and doing work in Africa. A lot of it is, do we do conditional cash transfers? Do we... so that's giving money, but having conditions tied to the money, or do we give services? So instead of giving them money, we just give them a program. We give them food, or we give them shelter, or we give them schools, or we give them, et cetera, et cetera. Do we basically take the money and turn it into some type of gift that we think they want? Or do we just give them cash and say, you can do whatever you want with it? So there's an organization called Give Directly that started up quite a few years back, maybe 10 years back. And what they do is they basically just take cash in from people who donate, and then they give cash to poor people, people who meet a certain threshold of income throughout Kenya, but I'm sure other countries now. And they basically just trash for cash straight up. And so from the transferring service, there's a few percentage loss, but they basically say, here, take the money and do whatever you want with it. Under the belief that poverty is, frankly, just a lack of cash most of the times. And So, and a lot of them were economists, and they would study what people would do with it. And they said, people, when they had no money, they spent, say, 20% of their money on alcohol. When they had a lot of money, maybe they still spent the same percentage of money on alcohol. But they didn't spend all of their money on alcohol. And with the other 80%, so like 80% of 100 is 80, $80. But 80% of 1,000 is $800. So now if they have $800 in discretionary income, where could they spend that money? And they spent it on schools, they spent it on improving their homes, they spent it on business investments and things like this. And so the idea was that, yes, some of the money will go to the quote unquote unethical things that we don't want, and yet the rest of the money will go towards things that do improve that person's life, because we trust that they're going to be able to make decisions that are going to help themselves. And when it comes to the stimulus checks here in the United States, we got a one-time $1,200 stimulus check, which, if I think it equates to, let's see, $1,200 if it were $10 an hour, which the federal minimum wage is not. If it were $10 an hour, that'd be 120 hours a month, which would be 3 work weeks. So basically, I think at the current federal minimum wage, it was about minimum wage for 1 month, is what we gave to every American. Now, for 1 month, the pandemic's been going on for 9 months. Now you could argue, yes, they gave more money in other ways, but they put a lot of money into the unemployment program, and then it jammed up unemployment systems, and it took a long time for people to get unemployment if they did, because they had to call in. Some people were calling in 24/7 to try to reach somebody because the lines were jammed. People were standing in lines to get it. Lots of different kind of procedural chaos, because it overloaded systems that weren't used to dealing with that much demand. So anyways, I think there's a lot of power in doing unconditional cash transfers. And I relate it a lot to gift giving. So as we're coming into a season where we do a lot of gift giving, think about giving a gift to somebody for Christmas or maybe Hanukkah or birthdays, as well. It's, if I'm going to give somebody a gift, I think the best gift that I could give somebody is a thing or is something that they really want and need, that they don't even know that they really want and need. So maybe it's that book that they mentioned once but completely forgot about, or maybe it's the vacation that you can tell they've been dreaming about for a long time but have just hesitated to take, et cetera, et cetera. There's always, we can find these little things that somebody really wants but may not remember or be aware of. And when they receive it, they feel so happy. They feel so grateful. They feel so alive. I think those are the best gifts. I think that's option number 1. And I think number 2 actually is giving cash. Because it admits, I don't know what you want. Here, take this and have this money. And then I think number 3 is giving a gift card. Or maybe 3 or 4, I don't know, even farther down, is giving a gift card, because a gift card is conditional cash. Here is a card, and you have to spend this cash at this place. For example, I received a gift card for Applebee's. I don't really eat at Applebee's. So am I now forced to eat at this restaurant, Applebee's? Or should I sell the gift card? Do I sell it to somebody who wants to eat there? So now I'm kind of stuck. So it's like this it could be Applebee's, it could be an electronics store, it could be online shopping, it could be any type of thing where it's kind of stuck. Even if it's a gift card of a kind of a debit card gift card or a credit card gift card, it's still something that I have to manage and remember, because it's stuck on this card. It can't leave this card. And if I use, maybe it's $25 and I use $22. Now there's $3 stuck on there. Do I remember to use that $3 the next time I pay? Because if I do, I have to pay with that. And then that takes off the $3 and I have to pay with another card. And then it's just, there's no way to remember easily on the card how much is left. I have to write down. There's a lot of maintenance involved in that, compared to just having cash where I could put it into my bank. I could give it, I can, and move it around a lot more easily. And so I think actually what happens a lot in gift giving is that people end up giving gift cards, because 1, we don't know what the person actually wants. And two, we feel bad just giving them cash. So we give them a gift card. Maybe we don't trust them with the cash. Maybe it just doesn't feel so special. So we try to, maybe it's just the admitting that we don't know what they actually want. And that can be a really hard thing for us to do, because if we know, if it's somebody we're close to and we really care about, we should know what they want. We should know more about them. But giving cash almost seems like sometimes a surrender of, I don't know what you want. At least from the person giving. And maybe the person receiving as well. Oh, you just gave me cash? Like, come on, that's not what I wanted. I wanted some special memory-filled gift that you could give me, something that only you could give me. So I think our number one preference is to receive that gift, that thing, that experience from that person who is the only person who can give that to us. I think for many of us, that's the number one option. But I'd say number two is cash. Because cash says, you admit you don't know what I need, and you're not trying to make a random guess at it. You're not trying to pigeonhole me into some way. And you say, here, I trust you to make a decision to do what you need to do for yourself. Even if that's going out and buying alcohol, or if that's going out and doing something that I personally don't agree with, I believe this is best for you to make that decision. Ooh, that is hard for so many of us to do. I would say the vast majority of development work is very conditional, at least coming from the West. But arguably a lot of the development work that China does in Africa is still conditional, but different conditions. It's more financial conditions instead of it's more like loans and like, oh, if you can't pay this back, then we take over the property and things like that. It's not really gifts. It's more of loans. But so I try to look at that in the context of what's happening with Congress right now and what we're giving out to citizens, basically as a result of the pandemic. And so it's been 9 months, and they originally gave $1,200 one time to Americans directly in terms of these unconditional cash transfers. And now they weren't even going to give any unconditional cash transfer this time. I think they were maybe talking about bumping up the unemployment and then really funneling most of the money into PPP and the other, basically the other programs to keep the businesses alive. And with the idea that if we keep the businesses alive, then we keep the employees alive and alive financially. And fine. I mean, again, if the gift is perfect and the gift works, we'd love it. The challenge is it's really hard to give a gift that somebody needs, especially really hard to give a gift that 330 million people need and to know exactly what they need. Sometimes it's much easier to say, I don't know what you need. Here. I know cash is the most fungible, is that the word? Most fungible gift I could give you. Cash can turn into so many different things. And here, I trust you to figure out what you need. So from what I've heard, they're close, or they have agreed to give unemployment, bump up unemployment, but this time to $300 instead of $600 per week. And I believe that they are also giving these unconditional cash transfer, these stimulus checks, at $600. A one-time check of $600, whereas before it was $1,200. And I think it's only given to people who made less than $79,000 last year, or maybe it's if you made more than $79,000 in 2019, you'll get a percentage of that 600. And I think if you made over 100,000 or something like that, you get nothing. Okay. So why would they give half the amount? In general, why would you give half the amount? So they think all we need in stimulus check, all we need in cash to help us survive 9 months of pandemic, or actually more, because this isn't going away yet. The vaccines are out, but coronavirus is hitting this country harder than it has the whole time. Right now, we're at all-time highs, basically. And expectation is that people of my age, so the kind of the last round of vaccinations, won't start until April, maybe April, May, June. So that's another 4, 5, 6 months for some people, for I would say a majority of the citizens in this country. So another $600, really? Why would they give half? It doesn't make any sense to me. And then I think the other thing is that, okay, maybe they're trying to keep the budget low, or they're trying to not make it look like we spent too much money, and we're trying to look for posterity's sake, and we're trying to balance the budget, and some other frankly bullshit that doesn't seem to like make sense at all because they're spending tons of money in other ways. It just, I think the other thing is that we have been through a hard year. We have, from my side, I have been through a hard year seeing my mom go through cancer while going through a pandemic, being scared that every time that she went in to get chemo, she was going to contract COVID-19. Me staying at home, being terrified that if I went out and contracted and came back and gave it to her or my dad, that they would get really sick or die. So I've basically been in the house for 9 months straight. I'm a person who travels the world. I travel the country. I traveled my city. Like I move, I explore, I get out physically. And I've been in the same house for basically 9 months. But I've been lucky. We've been okay financially. Other people have been struggling financially, terrified that they're going to lose their homes, terrified that their marriage is going to fall apart, scared and helpless, not knowing where they're going to go. Their industry, maybe their whole industry is collapsed right now. I have friends who work in the restaurant industry. A good friend of mine who's a waiter. And like, basically the industry disappeared overnight for 9 months. Maybe unemployment lasts that long, but he's not technically unemployed because he can still work a little bit. So he's not unemployed, is he? And so that's why I really don't like these concepts of unemployment, because they put very strict conditions and they don't necessarily work. Like, I didn't have a job going into the pandemic. So technically I'm not unemployed, because unemployed is losing a job and therefore trying to find another job. And if you're trying to find another job and you can't find one, then you're unemployed. But if you're not looking, you're not unemployed. You're just out of the labor force. Also, if you're in the restaurant industry and you're working, but you're only working 10 hours a week and nobody comes to the restaurant, and if they do, they're not tipping. So you have maybe a quarter of the time that you normally would work, and you have maybe a quarter, or probably less, like an eighth or even 1/16 of the clientele you would normally have. And because a lot of people are stretched for money, they're not tipping necessarily. And the interactions with the guests aren't as friendly and close, so you can't build up that rapport to get as much money necessarily. But you can't get unemployment because you're technically working. So that's from the financial side. And then there's the people from the medical side. How many people in this country have known someone who has died? We're just talking about the deaths. In this country, I think I read 1 in 900 people are dead. Like 1 out of every 900 people in this country has died because of COVID-19. That's insane. And it said, I think it was a little bit less, where like 1 in 400 households or something has been affected by this directly. God. That's death. That's just death. That's not people who get COVID-19 and are wondering why they're having long-term symptoms. It's not the people who are terrified of getting it. It's not the people who have to work in the health, in the health industry, healthcare workers who are seeing people come in and struggle. I mean, they're seeing so many people come in, struggle, gasping for air, needing a ventilator, and dying. So many people dying in front of their faces over and over and over again. They didn't sign up for this when they went to medical school. They didn't expect this to happen. We haven't seen something like this in 100 years in the US. And then they give us half the amount of what they gave us back in the spring. It's It feels disrespectful, and it just feels stupid. Like, who in Congress thought this was a good idea to give half? Would it really cost them that much money to give this at least the same amount, but just a little bit more? It's Christmas time. It's the time of Hanukkah. It's the time of Kwanzaa. It's the end of the year. It's the end of a very long and hard and terrifying and scary and depressing and helpless and powerless year. And you're going to give us half of what you gave us before? It's not even about the hard amount of cash. It's about the intention. It's about the message, the symbol that you send by giving half of what you gave before. It doesn't make any sense to me. What are you trying to prove? That you think you can balance a budget? Complete and utter bullshit. Now is not the time to balance a budget. When you are swimming, when people are drowning, when people are struggling to keep their head above the water, and you're going to try to theoretically balance a budget? Or you think that some antiquated systems are going to be able to figure out what people on the ground actually need? It just seems so presumptuous and so out of touch with reality. I don't know how to say it. Oh, I'm not sure if you get this message, but your video has not worked for a few days. Well, that sucks. Because I was on a roll. So I just don't understand it. It's just at a time like this, it's somebody was telling me the other day, they're like, I have to work through the holidays. The only time that my company is giving me off is Christmas Day and New Year's Day. I have to work Christmas Eve. I have to work New Year's Eve. I have to work. And this person's been working, remotely, working from their office, their home, and they're just like, give me 2 weeks off. Just give me 2 weeks off. Just say, this has been a horrible year. We understand that we have put you under undue stress. Everybody's been under undue stress. What we need as a company is to pause. We need to pause. We need to take vacation. We need to rest. We need to come back feeling strong. Because when we don't do that, we just burn ourselves out. That's the best gift that person thought they could receive from their company at this time. They didn't need cash. They're working. They don't need the money. Some people don't need the money. Some people just need the time off to recuperate. But government can't really give that. I wish the government could give time off. I think time is another thing as well. Time and money are two very fungible gifts that we could give. With money, you can do lots of different things. With time, you can do lots of different things. With a lot of companies, people don't get the time when they get the money. And if people aren't working, then they often have a lot of time and they don't have money. It's one of my friends told me this. My old colleagues told me this. She says, Jim, you either, what I realized during my MBA program is that people either have time or they have money, and they rarely have both. Well, there are a lot of people who continued to work and have been so stressed out and have a lot of money but don't have enough time. And there are a lot of people who haven't worked and have been so stressed out and are stressed out financially and need some money. So I think the government could provide the money, and I think corporations could provide the time. But regardless, it's this idea of recognizing what do people need and how can I give it to them? What do they need in general? And how can I give them something that will help them get what they need, especially at the end of a very long year? It angers me that people in Congress have not figured this out. And, we can blame the Republicans. They're stalling Mitch McConnell, this and that. But honestly, I don't care. I don't care if you're a Republican. I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you're independent. I don't care if you're libertarian. I don't care. You are on a team. In the Senate, 100 people. In the House of Representatives, 435 people. You are on a team of 100 or 435 people, altogether 535 people. Figure it out. Work together to come up with a solution. Stop blaming each other because they have a different party. Stop saying, oh, it's not our fault. We came up with a bill and they didn't approve it. Well, you didn't do a good job working with them to come up with a bill. Oh, but they're stonewalling this. Well, you didn't do a good job helping break down the political barriers. Oh, well, isn't it? Well, you didn't do a good job building camaraderie across the aisle. This is across the aisle bullshit. I'm so tired of it. Or why should we sit on two separate sides as if we're on different teams and intermix them? Don't let them separate themselves like that. Man, we used to do this in class. You'd separate. Don't let kids sit in the groups of where they want to sit. You randomly disperse the students so that people would mingle with each other a little more. I mean, why are we still doing this? Elementary school. Elementary schools are better at this than we are in Congress. I mean, it frustrates me to know all, and I'm finally being frustrated. I hope you recognize this and maybe appreciate it. But come together, work together as a team, and figure out a damn solution. Instead of just saying, oh, it's not our fault, it's not our fault. Well, it's not our fault, but it's not our fault. Hey, it's not our fault. We tried our best. Everyone else, it's not our fault. You're on the same team. I don't care whether you want to be on the same team or not. This idea that Republicans and Democrats are on different teams is wrong. It's wrong. You're not. You're all on the same congressional team. You want to break up into your little factions and not actually work together to solve problems, go ahead and do it. But you just recognize the pain and frustration you're causing so many of us. Please just see that we're struggling and offer your hand to help. Come together and recognize how helpless so many of us feel and how we're looking to you for answers and for help. And more than anything, we just want you to give us a boost. We want the emotional, spiritual boost. We want we want a financial boost. We want to know that you believe in us, that you trust us, that you don't have to go through all these stupid little hurdles to try to give us something because you think we're going to screw you and cheat you, or you think we're not going to use it well. We just want to know that you trust us. And one of the best ways for you to trust us as the U.S. government is to give unconditional cash transfer to us through a stimulus check that is more than what you gave before. It doesn't have to be a lot. I'm not talking $10,000. More, $1,200 at least. Just the symbolic nature of it. Show us that you know that we've been struggling all year and we've been trying our best to get by in this society. And for us to have 9 months of this, 9 months of the biggest failure in this country has been the lack of financial stimulus. Even the PPP and stuff like this, but I'd say the lack of direct financial stimulus has been the biggest failure in this country. For 9 months, y'all did nothing financially. And I really don't want to hear you blame the other party. Because for me, I see you as senators. I see you as members of Congress. I see you as legislators. I don't see you as Republicans and Democrats. I see you as United States legislators. And I think you didn't do your job, and that's okay. It happens. You were all stressed as well. I'm not saying, gosh, I can't even imagine what it must have been like in your situation. The pressure, the stress, the fear of making a wrong decision. I get it. I can't imagine. So I don't resent you or hold blame or get angry at you for what has happened so far. Please do better. Please. Well, That's the main thing. The main thing is I just want you all working as a team. Because whether you want to be on the same team or not, you are. And so many of us are relying on you to do a good job. And you know what? In a way, when you work as a team, there's a lot less pressure. I've talked about this in previous episodes. You don't have to do everything yourself. You can rely on people's strengths and you can build together. Human cooperation is one of the strongest forces on this planet. I hope in this time of holiday and as the year ends, we see the commercials on TV that are about love and hope and togetherness, that we go back into that spirit of togetherness that we were starting to feel in March, that we are all in this together whether we want to be or not. We are all struggling and we all don't know what we're doing. But please remember that we're all in this together and that it's impossible for you to know what 330 million people need. It's impossible for 535 people to know what 330 million people need. Sometimes the best thing you can do in situations like that is just to give us cash and trust that we will do our best to take care of ourselves and the people around us, and trust, frankly, in the market. Trust in capitalism. If you believe in capitalism, trust that if consumers have money in their hands, that things will figure itself out. So I hope at least somebody hears this message. And I hope that even if you don't work in Congress or if you don't work in government, you hear this message and you realize, you know what? I as well am tired of this idea that Republicans and Democrats are on different teams. They're not. We're all on the same team. No matter how much we fight each other in the locker room, we are one team. And yeah. And hopefully we start playing like it. All right. Thanks, y'all. I'm going to check out the video of the problem and see why it's not working. And hope this resonated with some of you. Hope you're staying well, stay strong, and feel whatever you want to feel. We're in this together. Take care, y'all.